العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala with matters of fiqh, and in the book of al-mu'amalat or transactions or contracts, and we reached babu ihya al-mawat, the chapter of ihya, to bring something alive. And al-mawat comes from al-maut, which is what is dead. So what does that mean? Bringing the dead alive. This is not to human beings, but this refers to the barren land. The land that is barren does not have any signs of life on it, whether it's plants or trees or houses or people living, just land with no, any occupation on it. I guess there are other words to it. They call it mawat. It's like dead. So to give life to it, as we would see how, what's the willing of this? If somebody goes to a land, there was desert, for example, and he cultivated this land. There was nothing, and he, bring by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala life to it. Or someone goes to nobody's land whatsoever, open land, with certain conditions, of course, as the ulama they mentioned, and he would build something on it. And people, of course, will benefit from it. What's the ruling of this? This is what this chapter is about. And again, repeating the same concept over and over again. In these matters of transactions or contracts, getting to have an idea in English of what these things means. But we need to first, if a person, this is the subject that a person wants to pursue the path of knowledge, to learn it, to be specialized in this, to be asked, to be a judge, to be a alim, whatever there is. So when we have a specific or individual issue, then we should ask the person of knowledge. We should not take what is being said here like this, because many people might misunderstand what I say and apply it on oneself. If you have a specific situation, then ask so that I free myself from any responsibility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might go to the hellfire so easy. So this is not a session of giving fatwas, right? This is just explaining some of the concepts. And one of the benefits, even if it's explained in another language other than the language of the matter of ilm, which is the Arabic language, the benefit is for us to get to know the beauty of this deen. This deen is comprehensive. It covers everything. And it can give those who are listening the eagerness to learn, to take the matter of knowledge, to learn it seriously. Because all of these types of transactions, people deal with it every day. And if we don't have the knowledge of it, people can easily fall into sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to have this knowledge. And we have to ask the people of knowledge, and that's how the Deen of Islam is the most important thing in our life. Especially with matters of fiqh, we have sessions of tafsir, hadith and fiqh. These three, of course, with the ilm of al-aqidah, after having the proper foundation, these are essential parts of knowledge. Learning the Quran, which is the subject of the tafsir, learning the hadith, which is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and learning the fiqh, the rulings, what is halal, what is haram. As the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith in al-Bukhari and others, مَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for, He would make him have fiqh in the deen, understanding. And that's what al-fiqh means. The understanding, the proper understanding with matters of the deen, because it's very dangerous for someone to say this is halal and this is haram without knowledge. They have to make sure that it's based on the knowledge of the Quran and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So what is the subject of ihya al-mawat? It defines it. يقول وهي الأرض البائرة التي لا يعلم لها مالك. It's al-ard is earth, al-ba'ira. Al-ba'ira means barren, deserted. Just, no signs of anything on it. التي لا يعلم لها مالك, the one that no malik, no owner, is known for this land. So a barren land that has no owner, because if it has some signs of things in it, that means it has an owner. If a land that has a fence around it, and it's desert, but there's a fence, somebody put that fence in, right? Or somebody planted something there. So whether it's for ownership, that's why there's other words the ulama they use, like al-ikhtisas, for example. Right? Al-ikhtisas meaning it's al-ikhtisas dun al-tamlik. Tamlik is when you own something. But sometimes a land is just being ikhtisas, being specialized, or this, they would say this land is for so and so. Not necessarily now, but for that purpose or that purpose. But this is something that has no means of ownership whatsoever. It's a barren land. And they use also the word al-hiyaza. This is used in many of the Arabic countries. Al-hiyaza is to have some, they use it in manners of ownership, but to take something in one's ownership. Or al-iqtita', or you take a part or a piece of land for yourself. How do people go about with this, especially if there's no owner to it? As we said, many places on the earth now, there's no such a thing. If there's no specific owner to a piece of land, is owned automatically to the government, right? So the government of the land. So nobody has the right to just take over a piece of land, right? And some governments would give that right to the people, or they make it very cheap for people, those who want to just purchase a land in the middle of nowhere. And there's differences of opinions whether the ruler, he has the right to organize this or not. Some of the madahib, they say he has no right, because as we would see the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, مَنْ أَحْيَا أَرْضًا لَيْسَتْ لِأَحَدٍ فَهُوَ أَحَقُّ بِهَا. Hadith is in Bukhari and others. Whoever whoever made a life to a piece of earth, piece of land, after it was barren and no owner to it and so on, he worked hard on this land to cultivate it, to build on it, whatever there is, he has the right to this land, that it's his land. So some said, can the ruler interfere and regulate the matter? Because this can be, chaos. People can just go claim things. So there's differences of opinions. Some said no, and this is the opinion of Imam Malik rahimahullah, that the ruler has the right. He has the right. If it will cause issues, definitely this opinion is a very important opinion, because no rulings in the Deen of Islam would lead to harm whatsoever. And if people changed or things have changed and it would lead to harm, then there's some regulations can be done to this. But people should be given the right to do that. That we can be part of the system. So for example, people can do something like, or the ruler can give, or the laws of the land can be in such a way that they would say, whoever wants to have a piece of land to work on it, barren land, any place, just come forward and say, I want this land in the middle of nowhere. I'll work on it. Not that I will have it for just to be my land, maybe after 100 years it will be worth something. That's not permissible. What we're talking about here is to have a piece of land to work on it immediately, to bring some benefits to oneself and to others, and this is definitely a good thing. It stays anyway, nobody's benefiting from it, so it's a good thing, instead of selling it because it's not worth anything. So the government would say, for example, yes, sure, whoever wants to have a land, and they would specify, it has to be outside the limits of cities or villages, whatever, by that much. Or they would, make it very clear on maps, these are barren lands, right? No one have ownership of these lands. So whoever wants to use it to bring any benefit, yes, they can come forward, we'll give it to them for free. But they have a certain time limit to work on it. If they don't, we'll take it away from them. No problem. Some ulama even said that the ownership here is not ownership to the land itself, it's ownership to the benefits in it. So as long as that person is bringing benefit, it's his. Once he leaves it, he abandons it and goes away, does it become his land still and inherited to the ones after him and so on? Some said no, it's only if there is means of benefit, he can take care of it as long as it's bring benefit. So there's many rulings to this, and again, the way to be regulated is by governments and so on, to legislate the matter, to make it easy for people and for the overall benefit of others and so on. So this is the definition of al-mawad, the land that has no owner known, and it's a barren land. So then he says, فَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا بِحَالَةٍ. And you see how the wordings are very you can see the feelings of man أحياها, right? Whoever gives it life. So this is what the effect of it. People would work hard to make the land benefiting. فمن أحياها بحائط. Whoever makes it alive after being burned by a wall. He made a wall. He built a wall around it. أو حفر أو حفر بئر, or he dug a well in it and there is water and so on. أو إجراء ماء إليها, or he got a water passage to it, a canal or something to this well, and he did that. He put the effort to do that. أو منع ما لا تزرع معه, or to work on the land so that he would prevent certain things to be grown in it. Sometimes there are bushes and so on, right? So he would go take off the bushes and clean the land. That means he worked on it. So for the purpose of planting something else. يقول ملكها بجميع ما فيها. He would have the ownership of it with whatever in this land, إلا المعادن الظاهرة, except the clear or apparent. معادن is minerals or what's under the ground from whatever, oil, metals, whatever there is. These things also, what's under the earth, the ulama, they had also talked about that. And it all depends again of how people would legislate the matter. Some said al-zahira, meaning something that you can see, right? Something that is on the land. He did not put an effort in getting it, right? So it does not belong to him. Or if it's very close to be to come out, that if he just do this, for example, he will get something, right? Then it's not too much effort, so that does not belong to him. And some said anything that will have a benefit to the country or to the people and so on, then he has no ownership to it. Like oil, for example. If they discovered oil in it, it's not his oil, it's to the benefit of the people, and so on. يقول لحديث ابن عمر, and the evidence of this is something that is permissible. من أحيا أرضا ليست لأحد فهو أحق بها, رواه البخاري. Whoever gives life to a land that it's not for anyone, then he has the right to it. And of course, ليست لأحد, this is the condition to it. It does not belong to anyone. It will not harm anyone. It will not affect anything in anything, right? Because sometimes, yes, the land does not belong to anyone, but there's a neighbor right next to it. That's not nawat. That's not the case. It has to be away from everything. And some of the ulama, they discussed how close these lands or far can that be. And this all depends on the urf, or the what's known to the people. Some said if he stand by the last point of the city or the village or where people are present, and he screams his lung out as far as his voice can reach, this is the beginning where, then, if, again, from that point that he's standing, right, the land that he's standing on outside the city does not belong to no one. It can apply this, but they say not this land, because it's right next to ownership of others. So standing there and shouting, screaming, what is the distance? That's just a way to figure out what is the closest distance, that then after that they can give it to people and they give ownership to them, as long as they would work on it, so that they would make sure that it does not affect directly or indirectly anyone that has any form of ownership. So nobody would come forward and say, well, that harmed me, that affected my business, affected my land, this or that. No, it would be far away from everybody. And anyway, this land is 1 century after another, nobody's benefiting from it. So someone that wants to benefit from it, this is a great thing. And you see how this is from the mahasin. This is one of the good things of the matters of the Deen, how that what benefits the people is something that you would find it present in the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, وَإِذَا تَحَجَّرَ مَوَاتًا. What does that mean? بِأَنْ أَدَارَ حَوْلَهُ أَحْجَارًا. If he tahajjar, right, that means he put hijara or stones around a dead land, a barren land. He went there and he liked that place, so he started putting stones around it. They can just put them, you would see that, I don't know, that's present in Egypt, maybe in other places, people would just put in the four corners. 1, 2, 3 stones here, 2, 3 stones another corner, just mark his land, and that's good enough. It's his, nobody is to touch it. And that's ownership even without no papers or anything. in the middle of nowhere, right? Usually for the people that have been settled there for a long time and that are closest people to the world, as tribes or whatever, they claim ownership of it. So if you want to purchase it, you have to purchase it from them first, and then you can go register it, in the government to get some legality to it in your hand. But anyway, so إذا تحجر مواتا, then you put stones, بأن أدار حوله أحجارا أو حفر بئرا لم يصل إلى مائها, or he dug a well even if he didn't reach to the water yet. أو أقطع أرضا, or he was given a land by the ruler or by somebody that, okay, you can take this land. فهو أحق بها, he has the right to it. ولا يملكها حتى يحييها بما تقدم, and he won't have ownership till he makes it alive. So if you put the stones and everything, yes, this is for so and so, so that nobody comes and take it over. But he does not have any ownership yet, right? It's for him to work on it, and once he makes it alive and benefiting, then he gets ownership. This is the end of what he mentioned, and he mentioned here in the footnote, ويمنع من التحجر الذي لا ينتفع به ويمنعها من الغير. Those who would put the stones and they never benefit from it, and they prevent others from benefiting from it, then they should be prevented. And then he mentioned a very important principle, not just in matters of transactions, but also in matters of ibadah. Sometimes we need this principle. He said, وَمَنْ سَبَقَ إلى شيء من المباحات كالأراضي والحطب والجلوس في المساجد وسكن الأوقاف التي لا تحتاج إلى ناظر فهو أحق به من غيره. There is a principle, من سبق إلى شيء, this is hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, فهو أحق به. Whoever goes to a place first, he has the right to it. Not every place, but something like this. So a person goes to a barren land first, and he says, I want this piece of land to be mine, he has more right than someone else to come after him. Or he went to hunt, or not hunt, to get wood, from the woods that does not have ownership of anybody. So he has whoever goes first, he has the right. And the same thing with julus fil masajid, sitting in the masjid, right? People competing to be in the first line. Who has the right to the first line? The one that comes there first. So even if the chief of the land comes in, right, but somebody else has been there before him, he is not to be given his spot, right? And some people, when they read that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لِيَلِيَنِي مِنْكُمْ أُولُو الْأَحْلَامِ وَالنُّهَى, those who should be behind me are those of people of understanding and knowledge and so on. They should be behind the Prophet ﷺ in the salah. They took from that the people behind the Imam should be, of course, the most knowledgeable and so on, because if something happens to the Imam, they will be able to continue the salah and so on. You should push away little kids and everything and to push them all the way at the end. It's yes and no. It depends who's behind the Imam. If it's a child that doesn't know the salah, does not understand, or does not respect the salah, does not know the importance of it, he might not even have wudu, right? In a nice way, we can move him around in a nice way. But if he is someone, right, 10 years old, 9 years old, he knows the importance of the salah, and he would not move around, and he was there first. He should not be moved, because he came there first. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as some of ulama they said, is to encourage the people of knowledge and the people of understanding. They should be behind the Imam, they should come first, because if they have knowledge, they should be the first to come, not the last people to come, right? So coming to the masjid, the lines of the masjid, and this is always, especially, for example, in masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, the first line, or sometimes in the Kaaba, or whatever places where there's virtues, people would fight over, right? And taken, you find this is so much abused in the Haram, right? Where you find a person without even sitting in a place, reserving a spot, right? And he think that he has the right to do that. You did not come and sit in the place. You're coming to reserve it, and actually this is a big business to some people. Thinking that this is a reward. Some people are hired, right, to stay in a spot for someone. The whole day. They stay from Fajr, so that they save the spot to someone that comes at Isha for the Taraweeh of Ramadan. People don't know that some people like this, they get salary, big money. So he would sit there the whole day, then the guy comes at Isha, gets his money, or send his servant, right, or whatever it is, to save a spot for him. I mean, this is, if people know that, they would not be very happy. But at the same time, if a person came to a spot and he prayed Tahiyatul Masjid or Sunnah, stayed there, then he went to make wudu or to drink or whatever, he has the right to a spot. When he come back, he has the right. This is his space. And this is by the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is a very important principle. Man sabaqa ila shay, fahuwa ahaqqu bihi. Whoever comes first to a place, then he has the right to it, as long as, of course, there's no harm in these types of things. What other issues with this Ihya al-Mawad? The ulama, they said there's no difference in the Muslim land, there's no difference between Muslim and non-Muslim. As long as you would, bring benefit from it. But then the rule can say there's no ownership. It's just as long as it brings benefit, you can stay there, you can do whatever you want. Because the overall benefit, definitely, it's a great thing for not just that one person, it's for everybody else. There are probably other many issues in this, but just this briefly, this is what is mentioned. And then the next chapter is an important one, but we'll leave it for next time, inshallah.